All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the Dad's Destined for Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Ian Brown. Active duty military, 20 years. Uh, Senior Chief of the U.S. Coast Guard. I started this podcast because being a dad is great at heart to me. In addition, my job has prevented me from being the best dad. So now that I'm in a job where it allows me, where I'm actually home a lot, I'm basically rebuilding and starting from ground zero. So I'm basically letting y'all know on the things I'm implementing. And that's why I started this podcast in the hopes of basically reaching other dads in similar predicaments that want to build relationships with their children. And so that's what I'm inspired about, building relationships with my sons. I have three sons, all ranging from ages 14, 12, and 9. They're heavily active. We do lots of sports, things like that. So it's given me lots of opportunities to get closer to them. But without further ado, we'll get started. All right. So we talked about different principles that I believe that make dads the most efficient or the best dads out there. Different characteristics, or I call them principles. So last one I talked about was dealing with your own trauma and healing your wounds. This third principle, it has to do with integrity. It's basically maintain your integrity. All right, so we all know integrity basically means that you don't, you're staying true to yourself. You don't move your moral compass or your ideals to the left or to the right for anyone that disagrees with them, number one. And number two, you have a foundation of principles that you stand on that also are immovable. They can be grown, but they're not, heavily altered unless you determine like one was corrupt. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I would recommend getting rid of, uh, you know, different principles you have if they, aren't productive. You know what I mean? Me personally, the Bible is my standard of integrity, so that's where I start off at. That's me personally. All right, so integrity, of course. How do you know if you got integrity? Well, you got integrity if you act the same way you do in person behind closed doors. Because we all know integrity basically is doing the right thing when no one else is looking. And this is what I believe separates men from boys. Uh, and you can't be a good dad, if you don't have integrity, because whether you realize it or not, your kids are always watching you, and they watch more what you do versus what you say, and know that one day they will bring it to the forefront when you try to bring up something with them that they disagree with. If they choose to speak up for themselves, which I do advocate for my kids to speak up for themselves, let me know their thoughts and their beliefs, of course, outside of what I've taught them, and of course I teach them to do it respectfully. But they'll call you out, and you don't want to have no leg to stand on because you told your kid to do one thing but you did another, right? So, for me, example, right? I have three boys. Of course, today in today's world, world's crazy, right? I stand on a few principles. One being that there's men or boys and there's girls. There's no in between. Biologically, there's either man or woman, right? I teach them that I'm not moving on that whatsoever, right? And I know it's a little bit of a sensitive topic in my family because I have family members that live the alternative lifestyle. They some of them have thought about transitioning, as we'll call it, and some of them are in same-sex marriages. But I don't move my needle just to make them feel accepted. they already feel accepted because I treat them with dignity and respect like I would treat anybody, but I'm not moving my moral compass and my beliefs just to make things not awkward between us. Everyone knows that what I stand on, and so I stand on it even when it's like difficult. When my wife is looking at me all weird, my kids ask me questions. Basically staying true to myself, even if it pisses her off because her brother, or somebody else is in a same-sex marriage. And I don't tell her, but I have all kinds of conversations with my family that live those lifestyles, in our own private conversations, and my stance is nothing new, right? That's now one example. Another example be pornography, right? Something that I struggle with my whole entire life. Well, actually, I wouldn't even say a struggle. I would say that I accepted it. It was something that helped me cope with life because my childhood was crazy, and didn't realize that I was addicted until I got married, had kids, right? So obviously, there was one time where I got caught, where I was watching something that I shouldn't have been watching on YouTube. And I have an open door policy with my kids, same way I do at work. And so they walked in, saw something that I was looking at, and they were like, "Yo, what's that, man? That's sus, Dad," right? I just had to own up to it, man up, and just say, I was in the wrong. Should have been happening, right? So ever since then, what I did to fix that issue is this new house that we live in. My man cave doesn't have a door. It's actually in the loft. So now anybody can see what I'm doing, hear what I'm doing at all times. So that's what I did to make sure there's no boundaries, because we all know boundaries, as far as when it comes to privacy, they give you that space to do things that you're not supposed to be doing. So two good examples on how, one, I didn't move my moral compass just to avoid any kind of controversy. I did it with dignity and respect. Two, I knew I had a problem with certain things, so I basically took care of that and removed myself the opportunity to do things, right? So that's what it's all about, being men of integrity. I know currently right now, with this election coming up, that's a hot topic on who people are voting for. I always say who you vote for, it's very much your business. It's no one else's business. If you care to share it, then cool. If you don't. And I personally think that what's going on in America right now, I think is judgment. Personally, I think it's personal judgment because our nation has been so corrupt. And that is, we are corrupt because at the forefront of our priorities as society, it went from, trying to live a good life, having standards, things like that, to basically like everybody does whatever the hell they want to do. But here's the crazy thing is, when a lot of same-sex marriages and folks live alternative lifestyle, when we oblige and we created same-sex marriage, made it legal, things like that, right? Because I believe you shouldn't have the right to force somebody to live a lifestyle that they don't want to live, right? But vice versa, they also shouldn't be able to do with you. So we made all these laws and things like that, and what ends up happening is now we find out the true agenda, which was emboldening people that were actual like predators and want to take advantage of the situation have. And now it went from having the right to be in a same-sex marriage, which of course that's up to each individual person. If you choose to live a lifestyle, and that's a choice, even though I don't morally agree with it, still going to show you my dignity and respect. However, now that led to these things where we have men basically competing with women, and we have men trying to get into women's bathroom, and we vice versa, right? That's freaking ridiculous, right? So I think we're being judged because we let that become the priority of our society, right? And because of that, I hate to say it, now we're stuck between Kamala Harris, who's going to promote that type of lifestyle even further, And two, we also have Donald Trump, who may have been a good businessman, right? But because of the things that he chooses to say, right? I'm not going to say that he's racist, but I will say he's a bigot at minimum. Because of things he chose to say, now it's emboldening racist people to come out and say things that they normally wouldn't say, right? So you saw how when we made this whole like same-sex marriage at the forefront, how that emboldened other predators to come out. Well, Donald Trump, and on the opposite end, when he was there and spoke his bigotry and things of that nature, it emboldened racists to come out, right? So now we're stuck where we have to choose between both of these losers. It's terrible. And I feel for our country because either way, there's going to be some consequences. Like I said, if we pick Harris, consequences are is our morality is going to cease to exist with the little bit that does exist. We will sink further into moral depravity, which that's one of the reasons why the Romans fell from being a great civilization. Same way that we will fall. The reason why I say we'll fall is because it's already known that a lot of countries are losing respect for us as a country. They don't see us as a powerhouse anymore, besides our military, specifically because of the things that we choose to put at the top of our priority when it comes to how we run our country. And then on the flip side, we can have economic prosperity, but at the same time, like I think that if Trump becomes president, it will embolden cops that are racist to try to get away with things that they know they shouldn't be trying to get away with. Just all kinds of things. I see problems regardless. Um, immigration is also a hot topic. Of course, in an ideal world, yes, everyone would come here legally. We all know that illegal immigration is an issue, but I will tell you, because I was married, or I am married to a citizen now who initially came in illegally when she was 3. And I'll tell you that the way the average American does not understand this because of ignorance. But the fact is, our current immigration laws basically promote illegal immigration. The reason why is you have to be in this country illegally for a minimum of 5 years and gone without any kind of criminal offenses before you can even apply to get a residency, a resident card, a green card, things like that. That's how most people actually have become legalized in this country, not the slow process of submitting an application. That has to be done about a year in advance. And if you're coming from another country that you have, prosperity and opportunities, cool. But for people that are being subject to other things like murder and mayhem, drug cartels, things like that, because of America's recreational use of drugs, we create the demand, therefore somebody else has to supply it. So don't get me started on that, right? So we got all these things here. And why am I bringing all this stuff up? Because there are a lot of things going on right now in our country that are going to test your integrity. And as a man and as a dad, it is on you, incumbent on you, to hold the standard for your family and to be an example to your kids, for good or bad. I'm not going to get in, I don't tell people how they should live, but just know whatever standard you set, your kids are watching you, your co-workers are watching you, everybody's watching you. So that's why I say top priority of a principal to being a great dad is integrity. See y'all next time.